Right. Good afternoon. Welcome back from lunch. So the next section, our keynote, is Professor Zupan, and he teaches artificial intelligence and machine learning at the University of Ljubljana and the Baylor College of Medicine. His research is focused on explainable AI and combinations of machine learning and data visualization techniques. And he runs a 22-member bioinformatics lab, which develops Orange, a comprehensive open source toolbox for machine learning. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Dr. Zupan.
Data science is quite a complex discipline if you would like to be data scientist. And I'm actually wondering for the past probably 10 or 15 years as a professor, how to train data science to people outside data science, like to, I don't know, molecular biologists or healthcare professionals or people in medicine. I mean, which is probably the majority of you in auditorium are from these disciplines, right? Data scientists and not computer scientists by profession. My view on that has changed about 8 years ago with kind of a strange event. There was a friend, a colleague of mine, Silvana. She studied here economy, and then she enrolled into digital humanities to Leuven. And she knocked on my door on the office, and it was sort of like a mid-schooler year. And she said, well, I'm studying digital humanities, and they're teaching me how to program. And currently I'm programming, Fibonacci numbers. And it's so far away from whatever I would like to do there with machine learning and AI, right? So how can I bridge this gap, right? And I said, well, it turned to me that probably continuing programming in Python, she's not going to go far that year. She needs to finish in half a year. She asked me, well, how can I start with machine learning? What is this? How can I use it? And I said, well, Silvana, I have a problem, right? I have only 15 minutes, and my next meeting starts. How do I explain machine learning to somebody, right, new in the field? And I said, let's try. So I said, what are you interested in? And she said, fashion. And I don't know, if you look at me, I know nothing about fashion. I didn't have a single data set on this. And I said, well, give me an example, right? And she said, well, purses, right? So I not fashion, but I know nothing about purses. I probably have a filter that I don't see purses in my life, right? That's something that I don't register really, right? So this was the first time, right, that I actually was learning something about this. And I said, okay, can you give me a few examples? And she said, well, just go on the web, right, and type. And we typed down, right, Dior purse, right? And wow, then I saw this, word is full of purses, right? Not only Dior, right, but you have this, what's the other company, Hermès or Hermes. I don't even know how to spell it, even today, right? So it's like full-fledged word of purses, right? I know you're interested in COVID, so I won't torture you too much on this, but purses is also something that it's like, there are huge, not data set, but like sets of images, right? And this is Chanel, at least for that I know there was a lady with this name. And she said, well, here they are, right? And then I said, okay, so at that time, this was, I think, 2016 or 15. At that time, machine learning changed. So these deep models emerged, especially for the images. They're now popular with the text, but images became really popular at that time. And then I said, well, maybe we can do something, right? So what we done, and here's actually the exact data set that we created. Data set, it's actually a collection of images here. Very simple one, right? So I have images here. This is like Chanel purse. So we basically, from the website, right? And remember, we just had 15 minutes altogether, right? So from the website, we dragged images to 3 different folders. One was Chanel, the other one Dior, and the third one Hermès. So is it Hermès or Hermès? Oh, Hermès. It's a French, Hermès. Okay, well, it's worth coming here. So we had about 29 of them. And I told her that actually any machine learning starts with the data, right? And here's a collection of images. So we're going to load this image set, right? So I loaded this set of images here. So the Persis, there are 29 images. I also told Silvana that it's best to actually first check how the data looks like. And in this case, this is like the set of images that we have. Okay. So everything okay, right? I also told her that this particular data is not very rich in the sense that we only read the names of the files, right? And the 3 categories, basically Dior, Hermès, and Chanel. And which she said is fine because she would like to know. So the reason why she was interested in fashion, she would like to know whether there is a crosstalk between different designers. In fact, in a more complex way in time, right? So she would like to know whether different designers change the styling, I mean, with consideration of time. There was no time here, so it was I mean, we just had 15 minutes, and when we collected the data, the 10 minutes, the 5 minutes were already gone, and the 10 minutes were left, right? I told her, I mean, at this stage, right, I couldn't do anything with this data because everything I have are just names and basically the size of the file and the width and the height of the images. So this is nothing that is relevant, right? But as I said before, right, there was this neural network technology where I said to her, we're just going to use a neural network that already exists. Actually, we use the one called Inception version 3 by Google that became famous at that time, which was trained on millions of images, right? We're just going to use that network to extract some numbers. So we're going to represent each image with a set of numbers like this. So now we have the images. So each image is in the row, right? But there are also numbers here, right? And because you are like, you work with molecular biology, you know that, I mean, everything that you do, right? Every patient that you have, every sample, you have a representation of that particular object with the numbers, right? And once you have the numbers, you can do something with that. And similar to here, right? So each purse is now represented with numbers. And Silvana is smart, and she said, well, if there are numbers, right, we can measure the similarities between the purses, right? We can compute how different they are, right? At that stage, I didn't tell her that there are 2,000 numbers here, right? So by hand, you can do it. But of course, the machine can do, right? So I can feed these numbers into something that computes the distances between purses. And once I have a distances, I can, I told her I can actually estimate whether there are some groups within these images. And so I showed her this graph, right? This is actually the result of hierarchical clustering. I didn't bother her to tell that this is a hierarchical clustering and this is a dendrogram. It's a typical visualization of hierarchical clustering that I'm sure many of you have seen, right? But she noticed immediately, right? So as soon as I opened this window, she said, oh, you know, there's Hermès, right? No, Hermès, right? Okay. They are like clustered together, right? So she said they're like this. And she said, oh, show me what they are, right? There are 5 purses here, right? So I said, sure, right? So the images are here, right? There are 5 of them here. And of course, I said, they all look the same, right? So of course, they're clustered together, right? And she said also, I mean, she noticed that there are some Dior's that are clustered together. They also look the same to me, right? And also Chanel's, well, they don't look the same, but I don't know, for some reason, right? And she said, well, there's a group here, right, that has two Chanel and one Dior, right? This is Dior and the two Chanels, right? And she said, well, that's very interesting, right? Because all three of them have a chain, right? Have a chain and there's a brooch, right? And that's a particular style. I mean, I should not speak about fashion, right? But she said, but that's a particular, sort of like a fingerprint for a particular design of the purses, right? For which, I remind you, I know nothing, right? But she said, that's very interesting, right? To me, I don't know, this looks like a copy of one of the other, right? But I shouldn't comment here, right? So this already produced some results, right? I mean, there were some interesting groups here, right? Purses that look the same to me, but to her, okay, has some value, right? I also told her that, I mean, that's a typical, like clustering is a typical data analysis approach, data science approach in machine learning. It's one of the basic ones for explorative data analysis, but you can do more, right? You can play with things like, I don't know, we can go on a web and collect some other images of the purses, like I named them A, B, C, D, but they look like this. So A looks like this, right? And C looks like this. And then maybe, right, from the purses that we have, maybe we can train something called a classifier, right? So maybe I can, given the image of the purse, right, I can classify the purse to a particular designer, like, so basically, again, I would need to read this stuff. So this is I said, purses test, right? Have import images here, purses test. I told her need to check whether the data that I have is correct one. Well, there are 4 here, right? And from the purses, that I had before, I'm going to build, I said, a prediction model, right? I didn't tell her what logistic regression is. I just told her it's a simple model that's going to predict us the design of the purse. Of course, for the new purses, I also need to embed them in this vector space, just to check how this looks like. I have 4 purses and the numbers are here, fine. And then I can give the model to predictions and the data to predictions here. And then I see, oh, there are like 4 purses. Actually, 2 of them were predicted as Chanel and the other 2 to Dior, right? And then she said, well, we should look at the result, right? Just to see, to have an explanation, let's say, sort of like visual explanation of why they're here, right? These 2 are Chanels, right? And she said they are, right? These are typical Chanels, and 2 of them, the Dior's, so the predictions was correct, right? I also told her that usually in machine learning, we not only like to predict, but we'd like to estimate how good the models are. We do that by learning on a subset of data and then testing the predictions on whatever is left. It's called cross-validation. I didn't bother her with the vocabulary, but I just told her that if I take I need some space here. If I take no, well, that's wrong. If I take my original data here and I test a prediction model, which is called logistic regression, then I get this kind of results. And this is called confusion matrix. And she immediately understood that whatever, so these are the actual classes and the predicted classes, she immediately understood that whatever is on the diagonal is where the predictions are true, right? She said, well, there were 8 Diors that were predicted correctly, and we can check again which are them. These are the Dior purses with correct predictions. And there were 2 Diors that were predicted incorrectly, and these are exactly, again, with the Diors with the chain and a brooch, right? So like, so the second time we see this pattern coming out, right? And of course, I warned him, this is a very small data set, and if she would need to do more, she could collect many more images. And to remind you, we never wrote a paper about that, and I'm so sorry, because that would be the first paper published on the image analytics in fashion. I never saw a paper before. There were papers later on published on these kind of data sets, but actually the time was gone as well, right? So my meeting started and it was 15 minutes and she left, right? And but then when she left, right, I figured out, wow, you know, so in 15 minutes, right, I was able to cover essentially, right, with her major concepts in machine learning, right? So things like, I don't know, data representation, which is distance estimation, clustering, image embedding, transfer learning classification, accuracy estimation. These are the major things in data science today. The concepts that machine learning talks about all the time. Of course, the methods below that, the methods behind this are very diverse, complex. There's a lot of math, right? But these are the concepts. And so that sort of clicked, right? And this was really the event when I thought, maybe, right? I did not think that Silvana actually learned much from 15 minutes. It was just like presentation of the concepts, right? And if she would need to use that, she would need to invest more time. And but just to, you know, given somebody, right, that never heard about anything in machine learning other than just like rumor, right? And being able to expose that person in 15 minutes, right, with major concepts, right, and making it look useful, right? I'm not claiming that was useful at all, right? But looking something that, I mean, working with data that that person is familiar with, that was sort of, for me, a game changer, right? We also later on, but not much later, we figured out that the same techniques that I showed you today actually work out quite well in the field of molecular biology. So I was working with, and I'm still working with people that work with Dictyostelium discodium, an amoeba, a social amoeba. They have images, and we've done some analysis here. And the images nicely, so if you plot t-SNE or MDS plot, they show nicely the development. So basically the image is sorted by the development of the amoeba, right? I also had a colleague at that time that worked in yeast protein localization, where his student was working on the annotation of the images of the localization. And we figured out that in manual annotations, there are certain mistakes, and we could easily discover them by using cross-validation and machine learning so that the labeling was correct at the end. And we actually published a paper that we called Democratized Image Analytics. So how to change, how to assist, let's say, molecular biologists in trying to use machine learning and all these sort of like fancy advanced methods in a very easy way, in a way such that, I mean, they can learn about them and use them maybe within, I don't know, half an hour or so, right? This was not, I mean, I'm not focusing on images. I would like to stop talking about the images right now, right? So this goes, I mean, this goes on to other fields, right? We also done, so we use the same kind of approaches for like, I don't know, chemical fingerprinting and structure exploration. A lot of my time, I mean, a lot of time of my lab has been spent lately on a single cell data analysis. So we constructed different components for the pipelines where you study different types of the cells, and then you figure out which genes are differentially expressed and so on. So I mentioned this, right? This related to gene set enrichment analysis. Currently, there's my PhD student working on the components for survival data analysis. So how to democratize this part of research, right? Finding, I don't know, key gene markers, or not only gene markers, but key biomarkers that maybe are groups, small groups of genes that that have an impact on different types of survival, and how to do that in such a way that, I don't know, when we are here working with a company, when the company gets a client and the data, they can actually showcase this in like 5 minutes. Company uses this tool now as a pitch to pharma companies when they want to explore the data in a like sort of timely fashion and timely and visually effective fashion. There's also a part of my team working on analysis of spectral data. So different kinds of data sets. I'm just exposing these are not only images, right? But anything that we can touch. The idea was how to actually democratize that part of the data analysis in terms of not going through the codes and not going statically, but doing the things the way I showed you with the PERSYS. The two things that I'm interested in as a computer scientist that allow us to do that are visual programming and analytics and visual analytics. So visual programming is something that I use to construct the workflows, and visual analytics is a technique that allows me to display something like a dendrogram and then click on it, right, and then explore what is there. So this goes into just let me do something here. Okay. So visual analytics is actually helping us in something that is now becoming very important in machine learning, and that is explanation. So whatever I see, can I find, can I explain, can I dig in to understand what is there, which pattern is actually the one that defines my group or class or whatever. So this combination, so visual programming and visual analytics suppose communication. I think communication is essential. Whenever you have the data, there are always several people, right? There's a data owner, there's probably like a domain expert which understands, I don't know, the biology or mechanics about this data, right? And there is data analysis, right? And the communication has to be supported by some tool, right? And we find out that this visual analytics actually is a great way to for these three types of people to work with and communicate actively in a sense that whatever idea they have, right, whatever new exploration they want to do, right, it's there, right? They can do it right away, right? Which relates to fast prototyping, interactive exploration of ideas. And then at the end, right, and that it's kind of strange because that also shifted the focus of my group, which was primarily before research and, I don't know, software development group, but we sort of changed in the past 8 years since since that event with Silvana. We said, oh, maybe that's good for training, right? Because if we can explain these concepts in 15 minutes, right, we can definitely do it in 3 hours more deeply, right? So we started to actually do experiments in training of machine learning. And since 2016, we organized altogether over 150 workshops worldwide. And these workshops are spent from 2 hours, which is sort of the minimum, to 2 weeks. So different workshops of different length, also to different kind of audience, right? So this shows basically the PhD students in, I don't know, Houston, Kolkata, and Pavia, Italy, right? But we also went mainly for testing whether we can do it. We went to the industry. We organized workshops for people in the government sector, and lately we also teach the teachers, right? So we went, I mean, from the PhD from the PhD student and from the researchers, I shouldn't say all the way down, because it's actually up when you go down, right? It's actually when you go to schools, you start where you should start. So lately we are teaching the STEM teachers. That's one in, there's one project actually that's going on in Houston where I'm regularly going. And that teaching is also not just the teaching, but is trying to see. So we try to have a follow-up, what's actually then happening in the class, right? So do they use this in the class? Is it possible to teach the teachers in 1 week such that they use these techniques on their own and they try to incorporate them in the standard curricula, right? And we also, so lately, means about 2 years back actually, Google actually supported us to go into schools. So there's a colleague of mine that went to primary schools, so not even secondary schools. So secondary schools is easy, right? But primary schools, can we train data science in primary schools? Of course, without saying dendrograms and machine learning or transfer learning or whatever, right? But just using it in a practical way, right? Of course, this all involved also writing tutorial material. So we wrote altogether, I think it's now 700 pages of different materials that we can combine. Whatever the course comes, we can combine the pages together and deliver things like shown here. We also experimented with short videos. So we ran a small studio, which can, I don't know, film. The idea is actually to have a very short videos, like 5 minutes long video that explain a certain topics. And we're finding out that these videos then become really popular. I mean, they're not videos about, I don't know, giving a haircut or a makeup, right? They get millions of views. These are like geeky videos, right? Explaining data science, right? But they also get millions of views. And it's sort of interesting, right? So there's this audience. YouTube is actually a channel where the youngsters today learn, right? So I don't know, if you're into teaching, I encourage you to experiment with that as well. So we went there. We also found out that there are universities that are picking up our idea. So now this is actually from survey about 1.5 years ago. We found out that at least 500 universities around the world are using our software and our approach to teach data science. So in the way that I showed you, right, in the classes. Lately we are also constructing mini MOOCs. So we are experimenting how not only to show the video, right, but how to combine some not too long text and then the videos with the questions. How can, I don't know, people get engaged more, right? We're also learning that these questions, if you want to attract people, should not be graded, right? So if you want to push this to the teachers, let's say, they should be able to answer, right? But do it anonymously, right? So we are experimenting with different types of quizzes, allowing people just to, I don't know, train on their own pace without being scored in whatever way. Or if you want to score the students with being scored and then having something else for motivation. With this, we went all the way, so from PhD students all the way, I shouldn't say down, but down to the primary school. And our probably biggest experiment there was in May this year. We launched a challenge. The challenge was that the kids in the primary schools would engage in data science, right? So we gave them a prepared data set of the surnames in Slovenia. So a list of 200 surnames with a geolocation, not exact location, right? But basically municipalities, and the kids needed to actually figure out, I don't know, where the common surnames in Slovenia are. So this is interesting only if you're Slovenia, but it's interesting that the upper part of Slovenia, the northwestern part is called Gorenska, and there's a surname Gorenc, right? And the Gorencs are not living there, right? But on the opposite part of Slovenia. So just like, I don't know, for those few of you, the Slovenes, this is really sort of interesting, right? Because you're not having the name from where you are currently, right? But from where you're coming from, right? And this calls for other combinations as well. So this was something funny, right? The other thing funny that the kids also needed to do was to actually form a data set where the municipalities will be characterized with the frequency of the surnames. So Slovenia has, I don't know how many, 50 or a bit more municipalities, right? Probably a bit more. And so this actually shows also the idea of how to compose a data set together, right? And then you can do the clustering. Of course, we never told in that challenge, we're gonna use the clustering or hierarchical clustering, whatever. So all the names for machine learning, all the fancy names were hidden, right? It was just showing, I don't know, use the data and figure out which municipalities look alike. And the result was this, right? So if you cluster the municipalities by their frequency of the surnames in Slovenia, right? You get this, right? Which is like Slovenia breaks down to 3 regions. And so with a really defined borders, right? Which was sort of amazing. So it was amazing not only to the kids, right? But then people from, then some historians saw that, and some people that study linguistics saw that, right? And they said, well, we never saw that in our lives, right? And I mean, this is very interesting, right? Because this only comes with the data, right? So nothing else than the data, right, shows. And this actually the borders that that have origins from Austro-Hungarian Empire. So Slovenia, you can actually discover the borders from Austro-Hungarian Empire, from the regions in Austro-Hungary, from the distribution of surnames alone, right? And it also turns out that if you explore a little bit more, right, it's the diversity in Slovenia in the Northeast. There's more diversity in Slovenia in the Northeast regarding the surnames, right? So now whether there's more biological diversity there, I wouldn't know, right? I don't have data for that, but surnames are distributed more in that region, right? Interestingly, right, so this challenge, so I was afraid when we ran this challenge not to have too many kids, right? I said, I don't know, if we get 50, we're fine, right? But we should get more, also because we were under pressure, because we promised Google that we're gonna engage a lot of kids in this kind of training, right? So we promised them, so whoever kid, I mean, whichever kid completes this challenge is gonna get a t-shirt. The t-shirts are there, right? And this resulted in a financial disaster because 1,000 kids actually saw the challenge. And I mean, of course, which was great, right? So we need to print the t-shirts. Okay. Current experiments include also the trainings on different levels, and these are all related to the projects. We do things now at the master's and PhD level. So we are actually preparing the mini MOOCs for molecular biologists. This is a project together with Baylor College of Medicine. We are engaged in a RISA project trying to see how can we push this kind of training to the industry. We still teach the STEM teachers in Houston, and that's probably gonna sort of like bounce also to Slovenia and to other countries. And we just got the Erasmus Plus project where we're gonna prepare the material for primary schools in Slovenia, Ireland, and Luxembourg. The lessons learned, we should, so I don't think it's wrong. I mean, there's a lot of debate recently whether everybody should learn Python or R. And I think it's great that people do that, right? But I don't think we should start with that, because some people will never be fluent in computer science. And I don't think everybody should need to be computer scientists. I mean, you cannot be an excellent computer scientist and then excellent biologist, other than, I mean, some people are geniuses, can be both, right? But I don't think this works. And I think we should train concepts and not in-depth math and statistics. I mean, of course, not for the data scientists. The data scientists, they should know math and statistics and be fluent in programming, right? But everybody else, right, we should train concepts first. With this kind of training, we can cover many topics in very short time. Like in 1 hour, I can cover almost entire space of concepts in machine learning, right? I'm not saying that the person on the other side will be fluent in that, but at least they will have a knowledge what to do, right? And they will have practical knowledge how this is applied. Training needs to be practical. Although, right, here's a warning, in 3 days or even 3 weeks, right, any motivated life scientist can grasp the data science concept, but it takes years to become data scientists. And it's just like it takes years or decades to be a good life scientist. With that, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me. I would like to thank members of my lab and the sponsors. Thank you.
Thank you so much for a very interesting talk that so elegantly described a complex topic in a very easy to understand way. So thank you so much. So I think we have time for questions from the audience.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask this question to you, and if I can't think of anything for Jim or Reby, I'm going to ask them the same question as well. So from a biological perspective, you know, we use a lot of machine learning to predict, let's say, gene pathways that are activated. Do you ever find the case where a biologist will go back and check that those pathways are actually activated and then inform whatever algorithm it is that it's hitting it correctly or not? And because you had a slide up there with the two-way dialogue between the computer scientist and the biologist, right?
Yeah. So yes, I mean, and probably because I'm working with, I don't know, some experienced biologists, right? So I'm working with people that really are experts in their field, right? And this is what is happening there, right? So not only to go back, right? But lately there is this very interesting topic that I'm also working in trying to understand. So whatever so before it was, I don't know, gene set enrichments and pathways and so on, right? And I don't know, anybody got bored on this? I'm a computer scientist, I'm bored on gene set enrichment analysis because it's always the long list of everything, right? And then what you're doing, you're picking up something, usually on the 25th line in the list, right? And now it's become so more interesting because there are these large language models, right? Where you can, instead of using this list, you can get explanations that are verbal, right? That are in sentences, and you can do more. So we always go. I think we always try to go back, and this is something called knowledge integration. So data and knowledge integration, right? I also found it the other way. I also found that I have some very new PhD students. They finish biology, they join my lab, they're learning about data science, and I also learned that they are just using models like, I don't know, predictions of, so from some metabolic data, just prediction of something that is there, right? And they're using as a black boxes. And when I ask them, how can you trust this? How do you know the predictions are fine, right? They go blank, right? And these are also the dangers of machine learning. So I think teaching the concepts of machine learning. It's not only to teach what these are, right? But also teaching about how to evaluate, how to be suspicious, how to not trust these models, right? So it goes all the ways, right? So I don't know if I answered this right, but it goes in every possible way, right?
Yeah. It's a fascinating talk. Not having to understand the statistics and so on that underlie what I think your orange visual organization program does. It's sort of it's what I suppose it's what you just said about being skeptical of the model. I mean, what's the risk that you just use an inappropriate method and you come up with something that looks nice, like your split of Slovenia into 3 areas, but actually it's an artifact?
Yeah, I always get this question, always. So, there's a heavy risk.
Sorry, boring question.
No, it's not boring. It's the right question. Maybe I should. That is a huge risk, right? And it was the risk when we started this, right? When we said we're going to democratize machine learning, right? There were my colleagues also here in Ljubljana that are experts in AI. They say, well, but this is dangerous, right? Because you're putting the very complex technology to somebody that maybe don't know, that they don't know how to use it, right? And that's not the intent, right? Let me first tell you, right, that it is as simple to use, to misuse machine learning with these kind of tools, right, as it is with programming, right? It's easier to discover the mistakes when you use these kind of tools than with programming, because people usually do not check the code, right? And then the second answer would be, I would never advise somebody who's not fluent in the field, right, to do experimentation on their own, right? I mean, I could go to some biology lab and could do something, right, and misinterpret everything there, right? And data scientists can go and use any kind of computational tool and misinterpret everything there as well, right? I'm always thinking that there should be a team, right? I said that there are like data owner, I mean, the one that produces the data, right? There's somebody that understands everything, right? And then somebody that understands data science. Without this triangle, the things won't work, right? I mean, you need statistician in order to do the proper interpretation of the results. Of course, that even, I mean, myself, I'm also trained data scientist, right? I rather use, I mean, for my first exploration, I already use these kind of tools, right? Because I'm fast. I also get the numbers. I also get the confidence intervals and so on, right? But the idea here is how to engage all the people, including data scientists, into the debate where they understand the things. So as far as I also understand some concepts in biology, right? But that I do not pretend ever to write a paper in biology on my own, right? And the same should be from the other field, right? But the understanding should be mutual. So I think it's very important for data scientists to understand the concepts of machine learning such that they know if they have a data, they know when to engage data scientists and for what kind of problems, right? But also to understand there's a limit to their understanding and they need expertise from that other field and collaboration as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.